Hello, I'm Dr. Octavia Cox and welcome to my channel where I do all things classic literature. As it's nearly Christmas, I thought we could play charades, and here are 3 charades by Jane Austen written for her family to solve. So I will read through the charades first and only then provide the solution. So if you want to pause the video halfway through to work out the answers for yourself, then by all means do. Just to quickly explain what charades are for those who might not know. Here, charade means a kind of riddle. So not the acting kind of charades where you kind of mime things out, but here it's a written riddle. So the first clause will give you one word. The second clause will give you another word, and then you put those 2 words together and that makes a whole word that sort of applies to the third clause. As an example, to show you how these charades work, here is Mr Elton's rather tired charade from Jane Austen's novel Emma. So Emma Woodhouse and Harriet Smith are compiling a book of charades and little sort of written puzzles and poems and so on, and Emma asks Mr Elton to contribute something. And this is how the text reads. Mr Elton was the only one whose assistance she asked. They owed to him their 2 or 3 politest puzzles, and the joy and exultation with which he at last recalled, and rather sentimentally recited, that well-known charade. My first doth affliction denote, which my second is destined to feel, and my whole is the best antidote, that affliction to soften and heal. Made her quite sorry to acknowledge that they had transcribed it some pages ago already. Can you guess what the solution is? Okay, to go through it now then. My first doth affliction denote. So that is woe. So woe is affliction. Which my second is destined to feel. So the second word is destined to feel woe. Who is destined to feel woe? Man. And my whole, so woe plus man equals woman, is the best antidote, that affliction to soften and heal. So sentimentally, Mr Elton overall is saying that woman is the best antidote to soften and heal man's woe. A really ropey charade, but in this scene, of course, the point is to expose the banality of Mr Elton. But I hope it makes clear how these riddle charades are played. So let's play charades and see if Jane Austen's own charades are any better than Mr Elton's. So, charade 1. When my first is a task to a young girl of spirit, and my second confines her to finish the piece, how hard is her fate, but how great is her merit, if by taking my whole she effect her release. To read through that again quickly. When my first is a task to a young girl of spirit, and my second confines her to finish the piece, how hard is her fate, but how great is her merit, if by taking my whole she effect her release. Charade number 2. Divided, I'm a gentleman, in public deeds and powers. United, I'm a man who oft that gentleman devours. Divided, I'm a gentleman, in public deeds and powers. United, I'm a man who oft that gentleman devours. And charade number 3. You may lie on my first by the side of a stream, and my second compose to the nymph you adore. But if, when you've none of my whole, her esteem and affection diminish, think of her no more. To go through that again. You may lie on my first by the side of a stream, and my second compose to the nymph you adore. But if, when you've none of my whole, her esteem and affection diminish, think of her no more. Now is the moment to pause if you want to work them out for yourself. What are the solutions? Well, charade number 1. When my first is a task to a young girl of spirit. So it's a task for a girl of spirit, that is hem. So it's a kind of sewing that you'd have to do. You'd have to hem something. And women spent a lot of their time, by the way. In fact, when you read Jane Austen's novels and they talk about working, work means sewing. They're doing their sewing work. So my first is a task to a young girl of spirit, hem. And my second confines her to finish the piece. So that is lock. So you get locked in, this young girl gets locked in, so she finishes her hemming. How hard is her fate, but how great is her merit, if by taking my whole hemlock she effects her release. Hemlock is a deadly poison, so if she drinks the deadly hemlock, she'll be released from her fate of endless hemming. And the solution for charade number 2? Divided, I'm a gentleman in public deeds and powers. That is divided, a gent. United, I'm a man who oft that gentleman devours. So put a gent together and you have agent. So overall, the agent devours a gent. And in the Regency period, the agent or an agent was the name for the manager of a nobleman's or a gentleman's estate. Mr Shepherd is described as Sir Walter Elliot's agent, for example, in chapter 1 of the novel Persuasion. Mr Shepherd does not quite devour Sir Walter, but it's clear that he outwits him. And that's the kind of joke, a similar joke that's going on here, that the agent devours the person that he's supposed to be working for. And what's the solution for charade number 3? You may lie on my first by the side of a stream, that is bank, and my second compose to the nymph you adore. What do you compose to the nymph you adore? You compose notes. But if, when you've none of my whole, so bank notes, when you've no bank notes, her esteem and affection diminish, think of her no more. So, did you get them? Thank you very much indeed for watching. Remember, if you like what I do here on my channel where I analyse classic literature, then do subscribe, and if you have liked the video, then do please press the like button. It helps me out in YouTube's algorithm. And if you have any of your own charades, then do please write them and share them in the comments below.